And we continue with season 2, episode 2 of The Bear. We pan in to see the beautiful Chicago shoreline, and then we dive into the beef, or now what's going to be called The Bear. The blueprint's up on the wall, and we're 12 weeks out. Just the deconstruction part of a rebuild, where you have to pull out almost everything if you're going to try and make something brand new, especially with a restaurant like the beef that is so old. They probably haven't had new tiles put in 30 years. The ceilings are probably trashed. The walls are probably falling apart. So they're at a point where they're hoping they can salvage as much as they can, but they probably can't. All the guys are working on the rebuild while Carmi and Sydney are doing a full walkthrough, looking at everything, seeing where everyone's at, just trying to have a grasp of where everyone is and how far along they really are. 12 weeks to do a full rebuild is next to impossible. Also, something very common in our industry is you have Sydney talking about her father, who doesn't really approve of her life choices in being a chef. And she flat says, like, he'd probably be happier if I was a plumber, which is actually kind of common. Most parents don't want their kids to grow up to be a chef. And Carmi puts it best is because there's not a whole lot of money, there's not really much of a future most of the time, and it equates to almost nothing in our society. But you do it for, well, because you're crazy, and you love food, and you love feeding people. And in walks Nat, talking about Carmi's prices, who was wrong about almost everything. They're talking about handmade and custom things for the restaurant to try and be the best they can, and that starts costing a lot of money. He said, and she flat says, like, remember that thing you said was $2,000? It's actually $3,000. She keeps going down the list. Another big thing is the fact that she talks about the forks. This is a very common problem with owners in the industry. They truly believe that you only need like one fork for every like 10 people or 10 seats that you have. And you always end up running out, and it's like, well, why aren't we washing them faster or some bullshit? In reality, you need no less than one utensil per seat in your restaurant if you don't want to fall behind. But that also changes if you're talking about a Michelin restaurant where you have multiple courses, like 6, 7, 8, 10 courses, then you need even more forks. Otherwise, you're absolutely going to run out before the third course. The ego starts taking over quite quickly with Carmi in these situations where he's like, no, I'm correct, you're wrong. This is also his first restaurant, so he's going to make a ton of mistakes before they open. We are getting to see every single one of the original beef crew work on the rebuild, which is great because it really instills some love for the place and ownership. It makes everyone feel like they have a part of it, like they own a part of this place. They are vital to the execution of it. And we get to see that Richie is still Richie. He's arguing with Fack about how they should be doing something. They want to redo all the walls and repaint them. And when you do that, you do have to move everything away from the walls. You have to scrape everything first, sand everything down, and then repaint. Richie's trying to save on time and labor and all that, but it's doing it incorrectly. And Fack kind of pulls a shitty move and says, Nat, and calls Natalie over to basically tattle on Richie. And Richie goes into this whole, like, oh, it's an alpha thing, or, you know, that Fack's not strong enough and all that, you know, this made up fucking bullshit. In reality, he's trying to still have a place. He's still trying to be, he wants desperately to be in charge and wants to have ownership and be who he thinks he should be. But he's going about it all wrong. He still is being very much a bully to everyone around him. And until he learns that he can command without bullying, no one's going to truly listen to him. Natalie's also looking quite sick. She clearly has morning sickness. Everyone so far has commented on it, the fact that she looks kind of green, she looks a little run down, she's looking a little tired. Everyone is worried about her because it's all family there. But she's clearly pregnant at this moment, but I don't think she's told anyone yet. One big problem you have when you're trying to do a full rebuild is you're talking about 3 to 4 months worth of time where you aren't able to fully pay everyone, so you have to come up with kind of creative ways to keep your staff if you want to. The idea that Carmi and Sydney have is quite ingenious, is to send Ibrahim and Tina off to culinary school so that they will not only hold on to the skills they currently have, but gain more. They'll learn more of what it is to be chefs in a fine dining restaurant. Tina is ecstatic and all about it. She wants to go off to culinary school and learn, because she wants, at this point, she truly wants to be like Sydney and Carmi. She wants that level of expertise. Ibrahim, on the other hand, is clearly apprehensive. He doesn't want to wear the uniform. I don't think he wants to go back to school. I think there's also some hesitation where maybe he feels like he's too old to go back to school, or that he can't learn new things. We'll see, but I'm really feeling like he's just apprehensive about being retrained on something he believes that he already knows how to do very well. As Richie and Fag are arguing back and forth about moving the lockers, they notice that Mikey's locker is not open. It still has a lock on it. Carmi walks in and sees it, and it's very much a moment of just everyone pauses and has to reflect on the fact that they need to cut open his locker and empty it so someone else can use it. Carmi takes control and cuts the lock off, and the only thing inside is a Taste of Chicago original beef hat. It's kind of a heartwarming moment because all of them smile and remember doing that event together 13 years ago. It is a beautiful moment because you could see how much it meant to all of them, and Carmi hands the hat off to Richie because I think he feels like he needs that. It's something that Richie needs to hold on to. Something that was Mikey's. We get to see Ibrahim and Tina walking into culinary school, and Tina has the perfect thing to say. She just flat out looks around and says, "There's a whole lot of Sydneys here." And Ibrahim says, "Don't look them in the eyes." And there were. You see these young, fresh-faced 20-somethings all in culinary school. Then you have Tina and Ibrahim, who are old enough to be their parents, which that can be quite daunting for someone when you are the youngest person in the room or the oldest person in the room. It's very much a moment where it can create a lot of stress if you think too hard about it. And then we get to see Ibrahim sitting in the locker room staring at the culinary application, and you can tell that he doesn't really want to do it, or maybe not that he doesn't want to do it, but he's afraid. I think fear is starting to take over. In the quick jump, we have Carmi and Sydney talking about the menu, and again they talk about this chaos menu. I've never heard that term before in my entire career, and I've worked at some fairly nice places. Maybe it's an East Coast thing, not sure, but I've honestly never heard it used by anyone in the industry. They're talking about the chaos menu, but also it being like thoughtful, so nothing has to be, you don't have to make a fully Italian menu. You could pull things from different cultures on the menu, so it's like kind of an international menu essentially, and kind of going all over the place. Having fun with it while also being very thoughtful is what they're going for. So we'll see how the final menu comes out. Sydney asks a very important question, which is, what did it feel like when you got the call for 3 stars? It's a call that people dread and hope for. The hope for is the fact that you just prove that you're one of the best restaurants on the planet. That all the hard work paid off and you have attained something that not that many restaurants can say they've attained. The dread is when you get 3 stars, the only place to go is down. You can't, there's no 4 stars, there's nothing past 3 stars. So you have to retain them. Now, when you lose a star, you go from 3 to 2, not much is different. We're talking minute things may have not been up to like perfection the night that the Michelin people came in. That's big news, and it hits the media, and people start talking about it, and all of a sudden it seems like, oh, you're not as good as you were 2 days ago, essentially. Losing a star can really, really screw your business over. So there's a lot of dread in that because you have to hold on to them as long as possible. Otherwise, it could literally destroy the entire restaurant. And we get back into more demo with Fack and Richie, and they find mold. Fack put it best. Mold is a death nail. If you have mold in the walls, you have to bring out experts and check it out. Then you have to strip everything, clean everything, anti-mold protection, all kinds of stuff. And if you're lucky, you don't have to rip out beams or entire walls and have them replaced. Richie doesn't want to say anything to Natalie because if Natalie finds out, she's definitely going to call some people, which is the right thing to do. They have to get professionals out there to possibly clean the entire place, or even have a brand new demo company come in to take care of everything, which would extend their time frame, which they can't do, and increase how much money they're spending, which they also can't do. So it's a really sticky situation. We get back over to the culinary school, and you can tell that Ibrahim is having trouble with his hands. The way he rubs them, he's trying to open up his knife bag and he can't get a good grip. So he probably has some form of arthritis, especially in the knuckles. It happens to a lot of chefs. We work with our hands and it starts to set in. It's one more thing that's adding on to like affecting and whittling down his spirit. Thinking that he's not capable of doing it when he is fully capable of doing it, but you can't always fight what your mind is thinking or what your mind is telling you. And Tina, being Tina, just says, "You've got this, baby," because Tina has to be the matriarch. She has to take care of everyone around her all the time. Now we jump back into Carmi and Sydney talking, and she's like, "Can I ask you a question?" And he asked her, if she really wanted one of those bullshit stars. Young chefs, and I was one of them. I wanted a star. We all wanted a star. We wanted that because we were told that meant you were the best. It meant that you had made it. And it's not true, honestly. It's really not true. I respect Michelin. I respect all the restaurants who have obtained Michelin, but it's something I don't strive for anymore. At a certain point, you stop striving for it, or you keep striving for it. I stopped striving for it because I knew what it was going to take to not get the star, but to retain the star the following year. I didn't want to have to worry about that kind of stuff. I just want to make good food and feed people and make them happy, and that's it. And Michelin can really change everything for you in the positive, but it can also ruin everything. Then Sydney starts talking about the last dinner she did, where she was at this woman's house, and this woman had to have fresh pasta and all this stuff. And the way she describes this woman, I've worked for this person, I've done parties for them, they're horrible. And how she kind of screwed up and the pasta wasn't done right. But the lamb ragu she made was like perfect, chef's kiss. So she ended up just spooning it over King's Hawaiian rolls, which to me, that sounds far better than any pasta you could ever make for me. Lamb ragu over King's Hawaiian rolls sounds amazing. That's the reason she moved in with her father and gave up the catering thing. Like that was the nail in the coffin for her, that just like she couldn't do it anymore. She had to stop. And now we get back to the bear in construction. Natalie's sitting on the floor of the bathroom while the toilet slowly bubbles next to her. And she's talking about how when Mikey ran it, she never wanted to be around, but then now her younger brother is running it, and now she's around all the time, and how she doesn't really want to be there, but at the same time, maybe she would be good at it. It's a hard place to be for someone like her, where your brother kind of died for the restaurant, and now your next brother's taking it over, and you don't want it all to go to hell. There's a lot of pressure there. And then she says, and I haven't even told anyone I'm pregnant yet. At first you think that she's talking to maybe a therapist or like a cousin or someone, but she's talking to the family plumber, trying to get the toilet fixed, which is hilarious. That she's just spilling all of this to the plumber while trying to upload a picture of the shutoff valve. So now it's confirmed that she's pregnant and kind of the operation manager, project manager for the whole place. So it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for her. After Natalie gets off the phone with the plumber, someone calls her, and it's the mold guy. Someone called about the mold. So confirming that it is 100% mold. And Richie being Richie is like, oh, it's not a problem. It's not that bad. If we had a mold problem, if I hit the ceiling, it basically just crumbled. And of course he hits it and just like completely crumbles, like black mold and dust all over him. When it comes to black mold, other than the health issues, and it can affect your dry goods and your produce, your breads. So it's something they have to get a hold of and control of like right now before anything happens. And it's very expensive. And we jump over to Sydney with her father having dinner, celebrating her mother's birthday. He's telling her this silly story about how their third date went, and it's cute. It's good to see those moments because a lot of us don't get those moments with our parents. We spent all of our time in the kitchen and we lost those times. Makes it very hard to look back. And then we're over at the grocery store where Carmi's looking at ice creams, and he runs into a old high school friend or maybe an old high school crush. She immediately knows who he is, but he takes a minute until he finally says her name. It's like, oh, you got there finally. But the look in his eyes while looking at her, you really haven't seen in Carmi's eyes. You haven't seen that on his face yet in the show. It's actual joy. And with the mold issue, we get to see Richie break down a little bit, and it looks like he feels like he's a failure. Like he's failing at being the lead. It's sad to see. It's sad to see Richie feeling that way because I've looked in the mirror and I've seen it myself. It's not easy. It's not easy to come out of that from a physical or mental state. And then we get to see Sydney with her father again. And parents don't always approve of being a chef. And she starts explaining how they're shooting for a star and what the menu's going to be like. And she's so excited. But he's not exactly excited. Because she tells him that she'll basically be getting paid for like the first month or so. And then she has to take a hiatus from being paid so that the rest of the staff can absolutely be paid. And his response is flat out, so you'll have a job for a month and then you won't have a job. And he's just worried about her. He's worried about his daughter having income. He is just trying to be a good father. He is trying to look out for his daughter, and he's, flat out says that cousin Monty has a job for her anytime she wants it. He is pushing for her to give up, but in the fatherly way of it may not work out. And he talks about how he reads the paper and, restaurants are hard. They're very hard. And we don't get any help from the government. Big businesses get bailed out every other week. And a small business like a restaurant, your local city council could give less than a shit about whether or not they stay open or not. That's more real now than ever before with pandemic and everything that happened. And he's just trying to do his best and look out for her. But it can come off as being condescending and like he doesn't believe in her. Which he does. He does believe in her. But he doesn't believe in the industry. And that's fair. And the final scene, we get to see Carmy talking with Claire and really connecting with someone for the first time, it feels. At least in his face, it looks like he's actually happy. And certain people leave a mark on you, and you will always remember them. And if there was something, a goal they had, something they wanted to do, if they left their mark, you'd remember it. And Claire remembers the name of Carmy's restaurant. And she even jokes, I'll bet you $1 million. And Carmy flat says, I'll bet you $1 million you don't know. And she does, because he's the bear, and she remembers him. Which says a lot about the relationship, that he left such an impression on her 15 years earlier in high school that she remembers the name of the restaurant that he wanted to open. It feels like Carmy finally has someone to actually connect with who isn't a family member or a coworker. And that's important in our industry. Not just in our industry, it's just, that's important in life. You need people to connect to. You need to feel connected. And roll credits. I'll see you next week.